Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar organized by the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or PIDS, Department of Labor and Employment, Institute for Labor Studies, and held in partnership with the Socioeconomic Research Portal for the Philippines. SERP-P is a free, open access library of policy research convened by PIDS. In this age of AI, where information can be misleading or unverified, SERP gives you trustworthy evidence-based studies from over 75 institutions. Complementing this, the Institute for Labor Studies, as a policy research and advocacy arm of the Department of Labor and Employment, contributes evidence-based research on labor and employment issues to help inform policy, strengthen programs, and support Filipino workers in a rapidly changing world of work. Our webinar today is titled AI and the Future of Work, Implications for Skills, Jobs, and Public Sector Readiness. My name is Marvin Cabangunay from the Department of Labor and Employment Institute for Labor Studies, a SERP network member, and I will be your host and moderator for this morning's discussion. We are very pleased to be joined today by participants from various sectors, including representatives from national government agencies, local government units, academic institutions, the private sector, civil society organizations, and of course, our partners from the media. Our discussion this morning is both timely and important. And as artificial intelligence continues to reshape economies around the world, it is also transforming how we work, the skills we need, and how governments deliver services. In the Philippine context, these changes raise important questions. Are our workers equipped for the future? How will jobs evolve or be displaced? And how ready is our public sector to adopt to AI technologies? This conversation also builds on our recent discussion on poverty and vulnerability. While many Filipinos are not classified as poor, a large share remain at risk of falling into poverty. As AI reshapes labor markets, it can either reduce this vulnerability or even widen inequalities if workers are left behind. Today, we will share insights from recent studies from global trends to the Philippine context, focusing on AI skills and the future of work and what these mean for inclusive and sustainable policy. We encourage everyone to actively participate in today's discussion. You may send your questions through Zoom Q&A box and we will address them during the open forum later. So before we begin, let us first acknowledge some of our distinguished speakers and guests joining us this morning. First, of course, we have the Institute for Labor Studies Executive Director Tri Jeanette T. Damo. We also have Development Academy of the Philippines Acting President and Chief Executive Officer Leocadio Sebastian. Center for Migrant Advocacy Executive Director Eline Sana. We also have Philippine Commission on Women Executive Director Narlene Santos Millar, Technical Education and Skills Development Authority Executive Director Charlene Justin Baste, Kapampangan Manalakaran Incorporated Executive Director Vivian Dabu, Always Trade Union Congress of the Philippines President Susanita Teshorna. And lastly, we have Philippine Consulate General in San Francisco, Ambassador Rowena Pangilinan Dakupil. To formally open our webinar today, it is my pleasure to introduce the President of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Philip Arnold Tuanyo for his opening remarks.
Maraming salamat, Marvin. Distinguished colleagues, partners in policy research, and friends from government, the academe, the private sector, civil society, and development organizations. Good morning. Sa ngalan ng Philippine Institute for Development Studies, nais namin magpasalamat sa inyong lahat sa pagdalo sa public webinar ngayong umaga na may pamagat na AI and the Future of Work, Implication for Skills, Jobs, and Public Sector Readiness. This webinar is held in partnership with the PIDS Socioeconomic Research Portal for the Philippines, or SERP-P, and our co-organizer, the Department of Labor and Employment Institute for Labor Studies, or DOLE-ILS. We would like to especially thank Professor Alexis Antoniades for reaching out to PIDS and expressing his interest in presenting his research work. This initiative has allowed us to convene today's timely discussion and connect global insights with the Philippine policy context. We are pleased to have him with us later to share his insights on this important topic. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is already reshaping the way we work, learn, govern, and interact. Around the world, AI adoption is accelerating at an unprecedented pace. According to the International Monetary Fund, nearly 40% of jobs globally could be affected by AI. In advanced economies, this share is even higher, reaching about 60% of all jobs. While some occupations may become more productive and efficient, others face the risk of displacement or significant transformation. Meanwhile, a recent report by the World Economic Forum estimates that by 2030, around 170 million new jobs may be created globally due to technological change and new industries, but around 92 million existing jobs may also be displaced. These figures remind us that the future of work is not simply about whether jobs will disappear. Rather, it is about how jobs will change, what new skills will be required, and whether workers, institutions, and governments are prepared for this transition. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, we convened a discussion on poverty and vulnerability, where we highlighted how closely labor outcomes are tied to poverty dynamics. We emphasized that beyond income levels, the quality, stability, and adaptability of work largely determine whether households remain resilient or fall into poverty during times of shock. As technological change accelerates, this relationship becomes even more critical. Workers who are unable to keep pace with evolving skill requirements risk left being behind, reinforcing existing inequalities and vulnerabilities. This highlights the urgency of ensuring that our labor force is not only protected, but also equipped to navigate and benefit from rapid technological developments. Para sa ating bansa, mahalaga ang mga usaping ito. The country has a young, dynamic labor force with over 50 million Filipinos participating in the labor market. At the same time, many of our workers remain concentrated in routine, repetitive, and administrative tasks that may be vulnerable to automation. Studies have shown that occupations in clerical work, customer service, and coding, administrative support, and even some professional services are increasingly exposed to AI-driven tools. At the same time, we know that AI also creates opportunities. It can help improve productivity, expand access to services, reduce the cost of routine tasks, and generate demand for new roles in areas such as data analytics, digital services, cybersecurity, AI governance, and advanced technical skills. The challenge, therefore, is not simply to blindly adapt AI, but to ensure that the adaptation is actually inclusive. We must ensure that workers are given opportunities to reskill and upskill. We must ensure that schools and training institutions are preparing learners for future jobs. And we must ensure that government institutions have the readiness, infrastructure, and governance frameworks need to harness AI productivity. Malaga rin ito sa ating sektor pampubliko sa paggawa ng mga malikhain at kabagong patakaran at programa. AI has the potential to improve service delivery, strengthen planning, and support the faster decision-making, and help governments respond more effectively to citizen needs. However, realizing these benefits require more than technology alone. It requires reliable digital infrastructure, skilled personnel, adequate investments, strong data governance, and clear ethical standards. Ito ang mga mahalagang konteksto kung saan napapaloob ang ating usapin ngayong araw. This morning, we will hear insights from 3 important studies. The first presentation is Professor Alexis, titled AI Skills and the Future of No Work. It examines global trends in AI adoption, labor markets, and skills transformation using large-scale international data. Building on these global insights, the next study that will be presented brings a discussion closer to home. The PIDS study, How Ready Are LGUs for AI Adoption, by PIDS researchers, Senior Fellow Francis Marquimba, Christopher Ed Campoverde, and Alia May Salazar, looks at the preparedness of local government units to prepare AI technologies and identifies the barriers that continue to limit their readiness. Finally, grounding these discussions at the level of the workers and industries themselves to study the impact of artificial intelligence on the labor market by DOLE-ILS Senior Labor and Employment Officer Chelsea Nicole Pineda explores how AI is reshaping jobs, work experiences, and skill requirements across key sectors in the country. Taken together, these studies reminds us that AI is not only a technological issue, it is a labor issue, a governance issue, an education issue, and ultimately a development issue. As in many of our previous discussions, evidence-based policymaking will be essential. The decisions we make today on education, training, labor policy, digital infrastructure, and public sector modernization will shape whether AI will become a source of greater inequality or a tool for more inclusive and future-ready growth. We hope that these discussions contribute to a deeper understanding of the opportunities and challenges, and may it help guide more responsive, forward-looking, and inclusive policies for the Filipino workforce and the public sector. Maraming salamat po sa lahat. I now turn over to our moderator.
Thank you very much, Sir Randy. As mentioned kanina, no, mabilis talagang binabago ng artificial intelligence or AI ang ating ekonomiya and even our societies worldwide. So habang may opportunities ito tulad ng increased productivity at new jobs, may concerns din like job displacement, skills gaps, at unequal access to technology. In the Philippines, while AI adoption is underway, gaps in skills, infrastructure, and institutional capacity suggest that we are not yet fully prepared for its widespread impact. Before we proceed, we would like to hear your initial insights on today's topic. As part of this, we have prepared a short poll. So to participate, you may scan the QR code shown on your screen or click the link provided in the comment section. The question is, do you feel prepared to work with AI technologies in your current or future career? So bibigyan po namin kayo ng kaunting minuto no, to answer and access the poll question na nasa comment box. Again, our question is, do you feel prepared to work with AI technologies in your current or future career? So at the moment, na-maximize natin ang allowable participants sa Zoom. We're very happy. We now have 1,014 participants and over 160 viewers joining us via Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining. The tech team is still receiving emails na hindi na raw po sila maka-join dahil nga po naka-full na tayo. So we encourage those who can't join on Zoom to join us on the PIDS, SERP-P, and DOLE-ILS Facebook pages. Ayan, so kitang-kita talaga no kung gaano ka-relevant and ka-timely ang usapan natin about AI and the future of work. Thank you so much for taking the time na makasama kami sa important conversation na to. Ayan, so flash on the screen is the results of the poll. Yung iba po ay nagsasagot pa din, no? So looking at the results, makita natin na halo-halo ang perspectives ng mga ating participants, no, which is actually a good thing. Nakakatuwang makita na may ilan po sa atin na feel na prepared tayo to work with AI technologies. Ibig sabihin, no, meron tayong strong level of awareness and readiness na talagang among our participants. Meron din namang somewhat prepared and okay din yan. It shows na growing na ang familiarity natin with these technologies. And syempre may ilan din na unsure or not yet confident and that's completely understandable. Actually, dito mas nagiging important yung mga ganitong initiatives natin like today's webinar. Creating spaces where we can learn together, magtanong at mas maintindihan kung paano natin ina-navigate ang changes na ito. Okay, so once again, thank you so much for your responses. Very insightful yung answers po natin, no? And lalo na yung emphasis on job security and skills, which are really at the center of discussions on artificial intelligence. And in fact, nakita natin yung changes na to happening in real time. Jobs are evolving and some are at risk of being automated. New skills are becoming more in demand, and organizations, including government, are being pushed to adapt more quickly. And this brings us to the central question of today's webinar. How is AI reshaping work, skills, and governance in the Philippines? And more importantly, who stands to gain and who might be left behind? Now, we move on to our featured studies. Our first presentation is titled AI Skills and the Future of No Work. The presentation examines how artificial intelligence is transforming labor markets globally, from shifts in job roles and skills demand to its implications for inequality, youth employment, and the future of work. This will be presented by Professor Alexis Antoniades. Dr. Alexis Antoniades is a professor and chair of international economics at Georgetown University in Qatar and a Fulbright scholar with a PhD from Columbia University. His research focuses on artificial intelligence, skills, and the future of work with prior experience at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and Princeton University. Without further ado, let us welcome Professor Antoniades.
Thank you so much, Marvin. Thank you, Philip, for the invitation, and thanks to the Philippines Institute for Development Studies. I am really excited to be here and talk about AI and how it affects labor markets. I've been to the Philippines many times, and for the reasons why you will see in my slides, it's very important that we have this discussion. So what I would like to do over the next 25 minutes is give you and the viewers a lot of information, a lot of data to start making some connections based on everyone's own experiences. I hope you will find that interesting. And then we will be able to have a very interesting discussion in the open forum toward the end. And to give you let me share my slides. So I'll be wearing 4 hats and you will see what this means. Okay, why is this such an important topic to discuss now? Well, what is very important is to realize that the rate at which new technology is being created has accelerated. So throughout humankind, we had new innovations, new technology, but the rate at which we hear about new things, Claude is releasing Claude design, Claude code. Every day we have something new that changes everything for us. That's unprecedented. The other thing is the rate at which technology has been adopted and is being impactful has accelerated. So in the past, we had the computer revolution, but it took decades because before we saw the impact in the economy. We had the dot-com, the internet revolution. It took decades, maybe less decades, to see the impact. Now with AI, we have a new tool launched today. Tomorrow we have the impact. Tomorrow we'll see companies experiencing and dropping their valuation because that tool renders them obsolete. And these two facts, the rate at which these new technologies are being created and adapted, causes fundamental shifts in labor markets where we work, in our welfare, in business, in humanity. And that's why we need to study that. So I will start first with my academic hat, and I will put this in context by giving you some very important data that you are all aware of, but it's good to summarize. So the first thing we know is that inequality is rising, and that is not a new phenomenon, right? And it's important to start with that because when we want to talk about the future of AI, well, is it going to decrease inequality or is it going to increase? What is our baseline? So today I'm going to show you our baseline. So what you can see on this graph, and I will not have much time to go through all the details, is that for the very rich, the dark blue, their wages, their income has been growing much faster than any other income bracket. So the poorer you are, the lower income growth you experience. So we have a lot of inequality rising. Will that continue or will that be reversed? The second thing, of course, we care about income disparities because higher income is linked to higher life expectancy, lower child mortality. So as you move to the right is higher income, lower maternal death, more life satisfaction, more years of schooling, less hours work. So we care about income. And we know that up until now, the people with the highest degree would get on average higher salary, so with postgraduate, than people with bachelor. And people with bachelor would get higher salaries than people with some college degree and better than high school dropouts. So degrees did matter, and that may start to change. The other thing we know from the literature from many studies is that on average, women earn less than men. In the beginning of the 80s, they earned about 38% less. Over time, that close to about 22%. We call this the gender wage gap. And it could be that women are willing to accept a lower salary because they care more about the benefits, the ability to go home, take care of the kids, have some flexibility. But we know that the wage gap has decreased, which is great news, but it hasn't moved for like 3 decades. So how will AI change that? Is it going to continue to reduce the wage gap or is it going to increase it, right? So that's our benchmark. Now, why do women earn less? One may speculate that women don't have the same opportunities are meant to get education, and that explains why. So on average, men have higher degrees than women. That's not the case. So even if we split the sample by age, by degree bracket, so every column is a degree bracket, like bachelor's, men, blue, on average earn more than women after we control for education. So it's not really education. And of course, in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, there's a higher representation in advanced economies of men, not women. And that we care a lot because a lot of the newly created jobs are in STEM and they give higher wages. So if only men pursue STEM, they will get the highest paying jobs and the wage gap is going to increase. But yeah, let me skip. Now, I'll come to that. So why is it that women on average earn less? What you see here is on the left, color coding the inequality. So many colors means a lot of inequality. So if we adjust for education differences, well, we don't see a difference. There's still a lot of inequality. However, if we adjust for occupational choice, we see that a lot of the yellow, orange colors go away. So inequality between men and women in wages drops. So what this means, and that's very important, we'll carry that with us as we think about the impact of AI, is occupational choice matters. It could be that women decided to become teachers because they love the profession, and men with the exact same education decided to go and work for a bank. Now, it could be that the wages in the bank are moving much faster than in schools. So what we see is that the wage gap between teachers and bankers is increasing. And because we have a lot of men bankers, male bankers, the wage gap is rising. So occupational choice is very, very important. And we will come back to this a couple of times. So keep that with you. Now, we have the superstar firms. We don't have time to discuss that. And I will conclude that in urban cities, wages are rising faster than in rural cities. This is the density. So basically, this is very low density. That's in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't matter if between 2015 and 1980, the wage growth is the same. But if you go in a high density city, wages in 2015 rose much faster than other zones. What is driving that? Business services. In the middle of nowhere, you don't have services, but in the big cities, you have a lot of positions in business services, and the demand has gone up, and that has resulted in higher wages. And that's relevant to the Philippines because the Philippines exports a lot of services like call centers, right? So we will see how AI is going to affect that. All right. In the second part, I put the hat of a researcher. So I will tell you a little bit about my work. In fact, I will tell you more about the data I use, and then I'll show you some cool findings. So how do we make sense of AI? Well, the first thing I've done with my colleagues, I got data on vacancies posted online. That is, if a company or a government agency would like to hire people, they put a job post, and that's online. So if I get that job post and I read it, I get some information on how the demand for different skills and different occupations is changing in the labor market. So I collected data on 1.5 billion vacancies from the US and China between 2014 and 2022-23. And I'm continuing to collect more. So I'll show you results from the US. I have some China, but no time to show you. So what do the data look like? I can go into my Excel sheet and I can see all the jobs posted in the US in 2014. And there are tens of millions. And I can say how many of those jobs mention plumbing. And I see different skills. There were 605 jobs for plumbing design. For mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design, 1,500. Commercial, 2,000, right? So I can see the different types of plumbing jobs, not just plumbing, which is very interesting. I can do the same thing 5 years later, and I can see which skill is growing more in demand. I think someone has to mute their microphone. So I can see that for plumbing design, demand increased 3.3 times or 2.3 times more than what it was before. So that allows us to see the change. There's no analysis. This is just counting before and after. So if you want to advise, your kids what type of plumbing to study, that can be very useful, for example. I can look at massage and I can see the different types of massage companies were hiring for. And I can see that while sports massage wasn't that big in 2014, it grew the highest in demand. Okay, that's very, very interesting. I can look at other things. 3D printing grew, this is 5.1 times. This is 1 plus this number. That's a lot. Amazon Web Services, 7.3. Opioid, how many jobs mentioned in the description something about opioid? Less than 1,000. Just 5 years later, we have 9 times more because of the opioid epidemic in the US. Bitcoin is growing. Major depression is very key. Fintech, knowledge of marijuana, blockchain, because blockchain didn't exist, right? So this is me searching on my Excel sheet for different degrees. What if I want to do the following? What if I say, let me not search. Data, please tell me what are the keywords, what are the skills, and I have 16,000 skills that grew the most between skills that existed in 2014 and in 2022. So show me that. And what do I see? It's words I don't recognize. Kubernetes, blockchain, Salesforce, SAP S/4HANA, SAP S/4HANA here because it has a space, here it doesn't have. So everything is about technology. These are skills that existed. So in 2014, you had jobs in Salesforce, but in 2019, you had way more jobs in Salesforce. So the bigger the font size is, the more they increase. So it's all technology. And we call this a word cloud. All right. If I say, what if I look at new keywords, new skills that appeared in 2019 that didn't exist 5 years earlier. Again, technology, TensorFlow, DevSecOps, Blue Prism, blockchain technologies for Internet of Things, deep learning, Jupyter Notebook, GDPR, that's a new requirement by the European Union. All right, so what if I ask, okay, that is cool. Can you tell me if there are any skills that were important in 2014 and by 2019 they were on the way out? Jobs requiring experience in ATM transaction, smell and taste. I have no idea what it was. It was before COVID, but it's maybe a clinical trial in 2014 that was hiring lots of people in that, and then you don't have the trial. Aeromedical evacuation, satellite placement assessment, eBay Enterprise, BlackBerry Enterprise, web practices. So these are the even corporate law, like this very generic. All right. So now we start to get something from this data. Now I'm just looking at the data. I love to spend time just looking at the data, not trying to say a story, but trying to see what story the data is telling me. And another thing we can do the exact same exercise, and that's getting us closer to our message by occupational group, by business operations. What are the skills that grew the most in business operation between 2014 and 2019, and the ones that disappeared? What about engineers? What about lawyers? And now you start to see a picture. Regardless of the occupational group, the skills that are becoming important in terms of growth are very similar. But the skills that are disappearing were very specific to each occupation. So that would be the first insight I'm going to give you from my research. By looking at 1.5 billion vacancies, my team and I were able to see that occupations, think of occupations as islands, they start to come closer to each other. So there isn't as much difference between teachers and bankers now as there was 10 years ago, or engineers and economists. And the reason for that is that both engineers and economists need to know how to use Python or data analysis. Data analysis is very important for both. So they start to look more homogeneous. So as time goes by, there are some skills occupations no longer need, and they drop them. And these skills are very different from one occupation to the other. If you're an architect, you need to use AutoCAD, just for architects. As time goes by, there are new skills that are becoming important. Architects may need to know data analysis also, data visualization, but economists need to know that. In mining, they need to know that. In marketing, they need to know that. In real estate, in finance. So data analysis becomes important for all the skills, for all the groups. So groups start to look very similar. Now, that's how I spend my time. That's my academic hat. But there is a limit to how much I can tell with my academic hat, because I rely on jobs posted to see what's coming ahead. But it means companies are already posting. What if I want to see the future before the future comes? So here I'm wearing my VC fund. So I have some friends, they have a VC fund, and it invests in Silicon Valley accelerators, in Y Combinator. So they are able to see the best startups that come in before anybody else. And 95% of their investment, 96 are in AI. So they make investments. And that allows me to see what will be available in 2-3 years from now. And that allows me to combine. For example, I'll mention only one. I'll mention two. Solve Intelligence is a company that uses AI to solve the problem of patent filing. It does all the research, it completes all the documents using AI for different jurisdictions in different languages, for different regulatory environments, and it reduced the time taken to work on patents by law firms 80%. So law firms don't need a lot of like entry-level lawyers because this solve intelligence can do most of the work, and one senior lawyer can just stay there and just sign and check it. They even launch a product that if you're an individual and you're thinking of patenting something and you don't know how to start, you subscribe to this and to this service, and it will do all the work for you. It will prepare the documents, everything. It will advise you, and all you have to do is take it to a lawyer and get it signed. So it really changed the business for patent lawyers. So you will need significantly less patent lawyers moving forward than you need now. And so far they went for Series A, so they are in the early stages, and they already have contracts with the top 400 law firms in the US that do patent. OpenCall is one of the 5 AI companies they invested that automates call centers. And that's very important for the Philippines. And this is not the early versions where you get so upset because the voice doesn't understand what you are saying. Now with AI, call centers can use AI to answer calls because they can switch languages. They can retrieve information in no time. Scale will not be a problem. You don't have to wait 10 minutes in line for the next. And that will, in that vertical, so if solve intelligence will kill 80% of the jobs in patents in the legal profession, call centers AI will kill 97%, and so on. So it's really, so that hat allows me to see more. Let me take this. I'll mention Domus. Domo is a California-based startup that automates call centers for collection. So for example, if you got a bank loan and you are not paying, the bank will give you a call and will ask you, why you're not paying, and please make your payments. You got a car loan and you are not paying, you have a credit card, you get these calls. Domo automates these calls using AI. And what they found, they did it in California, that's where they started. Their results when they have the AI call people is much higher than when they have human beings calling other human beings. In terms of was the call successful? Do they start making the payments? And you get more success with AI because AI doesn't lose the temper. They understand the other person, so they can change their tone. If they hear the other person with an accent like mine, they can switch the language and they have better results and so on. So what I'm trying to do is take my analysis from my research data and my research and analyzing those new startups that will become, some of them, few of them, billion-dollar companies, to understand which vertical in the labor markets are going to be destroyed by them, unfortunately. All right, so if I look at that, depending on the vertical, you talk about 10 to 97% of job loss across verticals. And Philip talked about upscaling and rescaling, and that is so important because things are changing very, very fast. And we don't have answers. One of the main lessons I try to pass to people is we would be lucky if we even know what are the right questions to ask. So having this type of conversation is so important, not because we have answers, but because it brings people that are thinking about this with people working in different sectors, and we all exchange information and we try to contribute from our own perspective because you see things differently if you work in a call center, if you work in the shipyard, if you work in a bank, if you work as a secretary, if you work as a professor, but we all need to come together. All right, so in the last 5 minutes, I'm conscious of time. What I want to do, I want to wear my philosopher hat. So if I were to combine all the things I see, What are some of the lessons I take? Lesson number one, skills are becoming more important, not degrees. So the boundaries between degrees is not that important anymore. Before, if you were studying banking or finance, was different than engineering, than economics. It's still different now, but not that important because it's what classes did you take? Did you take data visualization? Did you take programming? It's very important in every occupation. So what do we find in the labor markets, especially in advanced economies, we see a switch from degree-based hiring to skill-based hiring. And we have the what's called emerging degree reset. Many companies, like the ones you see on the right, very big companies, they drop the requirement that you have a degree when you apply to those companies. So they will take you even if you don't have degree. They don't seem to care about degrees because they think it's skills that matter. So that means for us as educators and for us as policymakers, and even as parents, we must prioritize skill-based training. That doesn't mean, of course, we shouldn't send our kids to the university. That's very important because soft skills are becoming more and more important. But we also need to understand that skill-based training is important. And these skills, by the way, are not necessarily the ones we teach students at the university, but they are skills they can learn online in very short time. So the other thing we found with our research is that occupations are converging. So the distance between occupation is coming closer. And yes, there was no measure of distance. What does it mean, the distance between teachers and engineers? We built one, we measured it, and we showed that over time, occupations are coming closer together. And because they do that, wages between occupations on average are converging and mobility is rising. So it's easier for people to jump from one occupation to the other. And that's the opposite of what all the theories were predicting. But we also found we used data on 5,000 universities in the US for a 10-year period with about 3.5 to 4 million degrees awarded every year. So we had data on every degree, every person who got a degree in the US. We found that AI is pulling more students into STEM education. But when we look at the gender composition, it's pulling more men than women into STEM. And that's alarming because we want more women to go into STEM. We know there is now the next thing is that the labor market is changing in what I think is three fundamental ways. The first one, we see a mismatch between degrees and skills. Many companies require skills that we don't teach students at the university. And many students who graduate and they take surveys, they report that they don't feel they're well prepared for the labor force. So on both sides. And in fact, if you look at the responses from students studying computer science, they will be the ones that are more vocal about not being well prepared, which is the opposite of what we expect. The second finding is that there will be a big drop in demand for jobs because many of the jobs and many of the tasks we do within a job will be replaced by AI. I am building a startup from my laptop using Claude without the need to hire engineering. It's incredible. I have an idea, I'm very creative. Now there is no technical barrier, I can use AI. So there will be a huge drop. And the other thing that is happening is in the example I gave with lawyers, you still need a senior lawyer, but you don't need to hire a lot of analysts. In banking, in Wall Street, in finance, you don't need to hire a lot of analysts. For me as professor, I used to hire a lot of research assistants to collect data, to make tables, make some nice graphs, read the literature, summarize it for me. I can just do it with AI. So I reduce the number of research positions I'm hiring. I'm still willing to hire somebody if I need something more technical. And that presents a third challenge. How am I going to find people that have more technical experience if we don't give them the opportunity to start from the bottom and move the way up, learn? How am I going to end up with senior lawyers with experience 10 years from now if I'm not hiring a lot of entry level lawyers? How am I going to end up with very experienced finance professionals if I don't get them analysts? So, what is happening? AI is not just limiting the number of jobs, it has disrupted this pipeline where you start from low, you know nothing. That's how I started trying to get internships and I knew nothing. But you learn and you gain experience and you start moving up. So now we have fewer jobs, and the hurdle we need to jump is much, much higher in order to get that job. Unfortunately, the benefits will go into specific countries, and I'm finishing in 2 minutes. But the cost will go in other countries, such as the Philippines, for example, because of the impact on export services. And as the impact of AI on the labor market increases, some countries may be better positioned to support the labor force than others. And that's one challenge. And where does this lead us? I think because there will be fewer things to do, I see us moving into 3 to 4 day work weeks. I think governments will have to pay universal basic income because people will be doing less, but not all governments will be available to do it, and that will become a problem. And that will create a lot of inequality, a lot of instability, a lot of tensions in society. And we will end up spending a higher share of our lives online for non-work related activities. And you see that from our kids, they're always in front of the screens, not being, very interested in reading books or studying. They just consume things online. And finally, I will conclude with this, and I apologize for taking 2 extra minutes. But what we see is a generation of unhappy people. We see that people feel unhappy, they feel they've been left out, and that will increase. Frustration, depression will be on the rise. We will have a feeling of relative economic decline, even if the numbers look great, because we compare ourselves with other people we see online that portray a very different image. And that leads to political polarization, populist voting, anti global attitudes. We already see that. And of course, that can have very adverse effects. So I end up with this picture. In 2015, 2005, 2010, they have this survey where they ask people, how happy are you? And people, at 20, they're very happy. They're about to start college. You know, as they move through college, happiness goes down, but they're very happy. People in the 30s and 40s and 50s are not happy. They start family, they have kids, they have so many expenses, they struggle to make ends meet. Around 60, quality of life improves because you no longer have kids to take care, maybe you have grandchildren. They did the same thing in 2022. This part, the ones that are supposed to be the happiest, are so unhappy now. And it doesn't mean that as age goes by, they become happier. No, this means that I ask somebody who's 40 years old now and they're happy. It doesn't mean that this 20-year-old, when I ask them in 20 years from now, he or she will be up here. This is the previous generation. Things are changing. So, with this in mind, this is my email. You can find me on LinkedIn and you can feel free to connect with me. Thank you so much. Sorry for taking more time. We'll talk later in the forum.
Thank you very much, Professor Alexis, for that insightful presentation. One key takeaway is that as technology accelerates and reshapes jobs, we are seeing both new opportunities and growing inequalities. So, this really underscores the urgent need for the governments, the institutions, and workers to invest in continuous upskilling, inclusive policies, and human centered transitions so that no one is left behind in the future of work. Once again, thank you so much, Professor Alexis, for your presentation. So first presentation pa lang po yan, no? And marami pa po tayong matututunan on the future of work, especially with the emergence of AI. Professor Alexis' presentation will be posted po sa ating PIDS website after this webinar. We now move to our second presentation, and let's zoom in our lens to a more local context. Our next presentation features the PIDS study titled How Ready Are LGUs for AI Adoption? This study is authored by PIDS Senior Research Fellow Francis Mark Kimba, Supervising Research Specialist Christopher Ed Cabo Verde, and former research analyst Aliyah May Salazar. The study examines the preparedness of local government units in adopting artificial intelligence technologies. Findings suggest that while AI presents opportunities to improve public service delivery, most LGUs exhibit low to moderate readiness due to gaps in digital infrastructure, limited technical capacity, and insufficient investments in ICT and skills. This will be presented by Dr. Francis Mark Kimba, who is also the director of the Philippine APEX Study Center Network of PIDS. Dr. Kimba has worked on agriculture, trade, and rural development and currently focuses on innovation among local firms. He holds a master's degree from the International University of Japan and both his MA and PhD in development economics from the National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies in Tokyo. Let us now welcome Dr. Kimba.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Now, I will be presenting our paper on how ready are LGUs for AI adoption, as mentioned earlier. Um, can you go to the next slides? Okay. So AI has emerged as one of the most transformative technologies in recent years. So in the Philippines, the AI sector is projected to grow from $772 million in 2024 to $3.4 billion in 2030. And this is from ITA in 2024. This is roughly an annual growth rate of 29%. Yet AI policy adoption in ASEAN has lagged significantly behind OECD countries. And within the Philippines, internet access is also a concern. So it remains concentrated in the main island in Luzon with limited penetration rates in Visayas and Mindanao. So these gaps make it urgent to ask because of the potential, but also the challenges being faced by AI. We we are asking are LGUs, our local government units, actually ready to adopt artificial intelligence? In the next slide, we want to frame the this. Okay, can you move to the next slide, please? Okay, so I'm sorry, previous slide, please. Sorry. Okay, so we want to frame the discussion focusing on generative AI that can transform local governments across three tiers. So, tier one, where most applications actually sit, generative AI functions as a digital assistant, automating tasks like meeting summaries, drafting job descriptions, and others. Then tier two improves communication with residents through AI chatbots, automatic translations, and improve access to public services. And then tier three tackles large-scale challenges such as processing, benefits applications, and others. Okay, so can we go to the next? Okay, so given this context, the paper asks three main questions. First, what is the current state of digital transformation, technical capacity, human resources in LGUs that would support AI adoption? Second, what are the key barriers LGUs face in implementing AI solutions? And then the third, how do organizational and regulatory frameworks at the local level enable or constrain the adoption of AI? So before we next slide, please. Before we proceed to the findings, I think it is important to ground this to applications so that we can really see or feel, or real world applications. So it's we look at cases in other countries about the use of AI. So first is an international case, the Singapore's one service chatbot, which allows residents to report incidents, to provide feedback directly through WhatsApp and Telegram, so without needing to download a separate application. So this is actually a practical example of a tier 2 AI improving access to public services. Next slide, please. So the chatbot's VICA, no? So virtual intelligent chat assistant, automatically classifies the feedback and routes it to the appropriate government agency, including photos, video attachments, and others. So this is a significant improvement over traditional chatbots that force users to into predefined categories, which often do not match their concern. And I know a lot of us have actually experienced this, no, using chatbots that somehow feel frustrating because they're trying to classify you into segments or areas that are not really what you are feeling, no, your concern. So the second example in Buenos Aires in Argentina, more developing country than compared to Singapore. So which introduced BOTI, BOTI, no? So a chatbot similar to in concept to Singapore's One Service is designed to assist residents with city service inquiries and feedback. In the next slide, BOTI went further than just inquiries. So, with not just inquiries, it also processes government paperwork, such as national ID applications, driver's licenses requests, and others. So, the screenshot on your screen shows what it looks like on the Buenos Aires city government website. So, you can see there are a lot of the available options for BOTI, for BOTI. So critically, next slide please, BOTI was embedded directly into WhatsApp. So similar to what Singapore did. No? So the most widely used messaging app in Argentina, which dramatically lowered the barrier for residents to access city services because you can now directly use it um, using the platform that is most available to the residents in the city. Next slide, please. During COVID-19, the pandemic, BOTI was even used to detect infection by analyzing cough audio clips via WhatsApp with an accuracy rate of around 88%. However, BOTI also experienced system breakdowns during peak usage. And especially when during COVID, no, when they had to book appointments, no, for vaccination. So that's actually resulted to a breakdown. So reminding us that even mature AI tools have scalability limitations. And this is actually important for LGUs, an important lesson for LGUs and even for the Philippines, considering to implement such applications. Okay, so there are applications present, but let us see now for our local context, how ready are our LGUs? So in the next slide, we mentioned very quickly our methodology. No? So for our methodology, we looked at our readiness index. We constructed a readiness index using a small data set, the 2023 DICT satellite survey data set. And the index synthesizes 6 dimensions, as you can see here in this slide, into comprehensive scores ranging from 0 to 100 or 0 to 1. So um, enabling comparisons about different LGUs. In the next slide, we present the 6 pillars. So digital infrastructure, we give that a weight of 20%. Covering connectivity, network quality, and ICT equipment. Human capital and skills are also 20%, and this covers the workforce readiness in the LGU and digital literacy. Innovation ecosystem also has 20%, measuring technology adoption, digitalization progress, And then governance and policy at 15%, covering strategic planning and institutional capacity. Data readiness is 10%, measuring e-services, data management, and economic foundations at 15%, measuring the fiscal capacity for sustained AI investment. So the specific sub-indicators for each pillar are actually displayed, are actually discussed in the paper. In the next slide, we show the coverage. No, so the survey covered 35 municipalities. So the population of interest is presented here compared to the sample. There are 296 also municipalities that were covered, and then 17 provinces out. And this is out of a total of 1,695 LGUs. We have around 347 who participated in the survey. In the next slide, let me just provide you a summary of our results. Now, so our overall results show that LGUs exhibit low to moderate AI readiness, so leaning towards the left. Um, the distribution peaks at a low to mid 30s. No? So you can see here in this bell curve, meaning the average LGU has only partially built the foundations needed for AI adoption. And there is a long right tail, a small but important group of high performing LGUs of around 60. The score is already at 60, above 50 na siya, that are substantially more prepared. Okay, so let's try to dig deeper about the results. So looking at the six pillars, um, where do we actually perform well? It's actually in innovation. Innovation scores highest at 40.6, followed by economic foundations at 38.3 and data readiness at 36.1. So these reflect LGUs that have stronger income bases, that have begun implementing digital services. So in contrast, governance scores only 27.8 and skills, making these the two most critical bottlenecks that urgently need attention. Next slide, please. There are also substantial regional disparities. NCR leads by a very wide margin, reflecting its concentration of digital infrastructure, skilled human capital, and exposure to technology-driven sectors is actually benefiting the region. At the other end, we see BARM, Eastern Visayas, Cordillera Autonomous Region, Cordillera Administrative Region rather, and Mimaropa all average below 30, reflecting persistent development gaps in infrastructure, skills, and governance capacity. Looking at income class, first class LGUs showed us highest scores. Though, and of course, there's significant variation as you can see by the distribution of the box curves. No, so meaning some are very ready while others are still lagging behind, sometimes even uh, lower than the second class municipalities. But what you can really see is as income class falls from first to sixth, AI readiness consistently declines. Fifth and sixth class LGUs cluster towards the 30 score in the index, constrained by limited ICT investment, difficulty in attracting specialized staff, and weaker institutional systems for data management and innovation. Okay, so let me skip this slide. This is just going to look at more on the very particular sector. Now, so on the digital infrastructure, there is clear stratification by income level, with higher income LGUs performing better overall. However, certain critical weaknesses, particularly in internet sufficiency and ICT equipment density, is actually persistent across all income classes. So while so it's common, no, it's not just a problem of the lower in class groups, but it's a common problem. On the next slide, we see some bright spots. For example, the availability of multiple network types is remarkably uniform across all in island groups, suggesting that basic connectivity coverage has become relatively standardized across the Philippines. Now let's go to human capital and skills. Next. So human capital shows the sharpest divide of all six pillars. A substantial majority of first-class LGUs have established ICT offices with dedicated personnel. But as income class falls, the capacity drops also dramatically. Many lower income LGUs have actually mentioned they have no dedicated ICT staff at all. Across island groups, Visayas shows a slight edge in ICT staff availability, but all island groups face the critical shortage in specialized ICT personnel, and virtually none have formal digital skills development plans. So very few have digital skills development plans. Yeah. So some of them maybe it's embedded in their ICT development plan, but it's very critical to have a formal digital ICT this skills development plan. Next slide, please. Okay, so the innovation pillar is the strongest overall, with LGUs across all incomes classes showing meaningful progress in digitalization of services, which is good. However, adoption of emerging technologies, such as our focus here, AI, remains critically low everywhere, suggesting that current digitalization has not yet created the culture of technology exploration. So, of course, we are now exploring or looking at digital services, but how to further improve that with the emerging technology of AI, or the technology of AI that has already with us is actually not being explored. In the next slide, across island groups, the pattern is also strikingly similar. Strong digitalization progress, but in terms of the adoption of emerging technologies, big data, AI, the adoption is quite weak. So this uniformity suggests that the barrier is actually more nationally systemic rather than being influenced by regional characteristics. The governance pillar reveals a striking paradox. No? So LGU score well in digitalization plans, big data orientation on paper, but display critical weaknesses in actually allocating ICT budgets and developing medium-term planning. So the intent is there. So some actually have plans, or they know of the need to have big data or AI applications and adoption of AI applications, but the application and implementation, allocating budgets is not there. So the intent is there across all income classes, but putting your money where your plan is actually not being done. No? The financial flow follow through is not. In the next slide, the same paradox can be seen across island groups. Strong policy commitment to big data orientation contrasts sharply with weak actual ICT budget allocation, a pattern that is consistent nationwide. Data readiness presents a mixed picture. Security measures and application usage are relatively strong, but e-services availability, the platforms actually needed to generate, manage, and share data, AI applications is weak across all income classes. Cybersecurity scores are exceptionally uniform nationwide, with only 3.4 points range separating all regions. This indicates that cybersecurity has become a universally institutional priority throughout the Philippines local government system. So as expected, economic foundations consistently follow income class, of course, because that's your classes are actually dependent on how much your income is. No, so yeah. Higher income LGUs have substantially stronger fiscal autonomy, greater capacity for sustained technology investment, while lower income classes face structural constraints in balancing local revenue against service expenditure needs. Interestingly, in the next slide, local revenue generation shows surprising uniformity across island groups. So most LGUs have developed some predictable local revenue base. And this provides a starting point for digital investment, even if it remains modest relative to what AI adoption requires. In the next slide, to complement our quantitative findings, we also conducted interviews with four local government representatives, two from Mindanao, uh, one from Luzon, and one from the Visayas, so spanning first-class cities and municipalities. So what have we found? No? So in the next slide, all this is our findings. So all LGUs have no official short-term plans to adopt AI, and the reasons are actually quite varied. So one cited the absence of skilled ICT workers, another said their budget is limited, prioritized for social services like scholarships and medical assistance. A third noted that AI providers have approached them about disaster risk reduction applications, but no commitment has been made. So it's only up to the discussion level. Notably, one LGU shared that their staff, the staff in the LGU, are already informally using ChatGPT and Grammarly for social media work. So, but that's at the individual level. No? So it's not institutionalized. But this is some sign, no, a sign that grassroots AI use is already happening even without official plans. So in the next slide, what LGUs are actively pursuing is actually broader digitalization. So online payment platforms for local taxes driven by Ease of Doing Business Act and the programs like DOST's Starbooks for digital archives. AI is seen as a future step, but not a current priority. Uh, okay, so we have 5 minutes remaining, so that allows me some time to summarize our key findings. The Philippine LGUs average 30 to 35 on the AI Readiness Index, and that means it's a low to moderate preparedness. Income class is the most powerful predictor of readiness. NCR leads significantly with BARM, Eastern Visayas, CAR, and Mimaropa being at the lower end of the scale. And the skills pillar, with an average score of 29 and the near total absence of ICT specialists across all income classes, is actually the most critical gap to address. We have some policy recommendations. First is about removing regulatory barriers to infrastructure development. And this means eliminating the legislative franchise, um, requirement for connectivity providers, removing outdated laws like RA 7925 and the radio control law, along with spectrum management reforms for 5G. Second, uh, is integrate AI and data literacy into education from K to 12 through higher education, and TESDA, building on RA 11927 and invest in teacher training capacity. Third, is to establish a unified national AI strategy. But I know that the DOST has already released the national AI strategy, um, and this is actually a good step. But what is needed is actually designating what would be the roles of the other agencies, the ICT, DTI, DOH, DepEd, um, and actually allowing for flexibility within each sector to develop tailored policies to help support the LGUs in the implementation of and the adoption of AI. Fourth, mandate a minimum ICT budget allocation, and if this is just much as possible. No? So for 2% for LGU budgets, for digitalization, and then increasing it eventually to 3%, and then link the compliance to eligibility for national grants and performance-based transfers. Fifth is establish a national data governance framework under the PSA, so with standards for data generation, collection, sharing, and privacy, plus a centralized data portal for authorized researchers and regulators. Sixth is to create a national LGU AI readiness fund. with equity-based allocation. So 100% grants for 4th through 6th class LGUs with sliding scales for higher income classes, conditional on the credible implementation plans and commitment to knowledge sharing. So this is a means of ensuring that the um, lower class LGUs would be able to catch up with the higher class LGUs. And with this, we end our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and we welcome your comments and suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Francis, for your insightful presentation. So sa presentation, no, na-highlight na kahit malaki yung potential ng AI sa governance, hindi pa rin po pantay ang readiness across our LGUs. Nakita rin natin na may clear disparities across regions and income levels. So ibig sabihin, hindi talaga evenly distributed ang readiness natin pagdating sa AI. All right. So once again, thank you po, Dr. Francis, for your presentation. So sa ngayon, we have 1,015 participants on Zoom. We have reached our maximum capacity. So thank you so much po for joining. We also have 417 viewers on Facebook Live. Thank you all for joining us today. So for those who still want to catch up, no, you can continue watching the live stream on the PIDS and SERP-P Facebook pages. We also invite you to share your thoughts using our official hashtags, hashtag PEDS events, hashtag AIPH, and hashtag future of work. For our Facebook Live viewers, you may also let us know where you're watching from. No, just drop your location in the comment section. So let's give a quick shout out to some of our FP viewers joining us today. First, we have Silver Yatkon. I hope I'm pronouncing your surname right. Now, from the Philippine Statistics Authority, thank you for joining. We have Cyril de la Fuente from the University of Antique. Good morning. We have Lau Katukod from Land Bank Head Office. Thank you for joining. Vandom Borromeo Gallardo from First Laguna Electric Cooperative Incorporated, Lumban. May mga viewers din po tayo, no, from the National Bureau of Investigation, House of Representatives, Northeastern Mindanao State University, and Occidental Mindoro State College and Gingoog City United Colleges. Maraming salamat po for joining us today and good morning po sa ating lahat. Please stay tuned until the end of the program, lalo na ang ating FB Live viewers. You can receive your e-certificate through our replay on demand. Meanwhile, for our Zoom participants, makakakuha din po kayo ng e-certificates after completing the feedback survey. So, isasend po ng aming team yung mga links for this after the discussion. And of course, meron din po kayong chance na manalo ng exclusive PIDS merchandise. So, magra-raffle po kami ng 3 PIDS merch items today. So, make sure to stay until the end of the program para may chance po kayong manalo. All right, so we now move to our third and final study. Complementing the governance perspective, this study is titled Impact of Artificial Intelligence on the Labor Market, authored by Senior Labor and Employment Officers Chelsea Nicole Pineda and yours truly, Marvin Cabangunay. The study examines how AI adoption is reshaping jobs, skills, and work experiences across key sectors. Findings show that while AI enhances productivity and creates demand for new occupations, it also introduces risks such as job displacement and skills mismatches, highlighting the need for coordinated policies on workforce development, reskilling, and the ethical use of AI. This will be presented by Ms. Chelsea Nicole Pineda. Ms. Pineda holds a master's degree from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and a bachelor's degree from De La Salle College of St. Benilde. Her work focuses on the future of work, labor markets, migration, and employment policy, and she also teaches courses on ASEAN and migration studies. Let us now welcome Ms. Pineda.
Thank you for the introduction, Marvin. I will just share my screen for my slide. So can I confirm if my screen is now visible? Okay. So thank you very much for the introduction, Marvin. And before I start my presentation, I'd like to invite everyone to open their messenger apps. And if you can see, sa taas po ay merong search, meta, AI, or search. So with this, we can see that AI can now easily be accessible by everyone and anyone. And you don't have to have at least specialized AI skills to know or use artificial intelligence. But let's contextualize our discussion on how AI is being implemented in the Philippine labor market. Our study, Impact of Artificial Intelligence, and the Philippine labor market was conducted back in 2024, where policy discussions are being taped on how AI is being used in certain industries and what is its impact in the labor market. So we surveyed around 54 employers and around 300 employees in three different sectors to see how AI is being implemented and what are the current realities of the labor market back in 2024. So right now we are currently in the fourth industrial revolution where there are transformative shifts in the world of work, altering how tasks are being performed and how job roles are being defined for the 21st century. There are two sides of the AI debate in the world of work. First, on the one hand, AI increases productivity, efficiency, and at least it reduces repetitive tasks. However, on the other hand, it also has negative effects. A lot of people are concerned on the job displacement that could occur, while certain industries are also saying that AI could impact the cognitive ability of the workers because it is now um, taking up the repetitive tasks. So more workers are now using their cognitive functions to perform their tasks. In 2024, we surveyed employers from three different industries, namely the IT BPM, manufacturing, and the banking and finance industries. Because back in 2024, we've seen that they are at the forefront of AI adoption here in the Philippines. And among our surveyed respondents, majority are already implementing AI within their enterprises. And around 49% are not implementing AI, but they are currently looking into how AI can be implemented within their enterprises. So, why are employers adopting artificial intelligence? First is because of its productivity, cost efficiency, and quality assurance. Different industries have different priorities due to their specific trade tasks. And because certain industries like the ITPPM have customer service and clients overseas, it is important for them to keep on the tide and be updated with the current trends in the market. And it is important for them that they optimize their operations to their overseas clients. Meanwhile, in the manufacturing sector, since majority of our manufacturing companies here are subsidiaries of international companies, they adopt AI because it is mandated or introduced by their international headquarters. Meanwhile, banking and finance institutions here in the Philippines are using AI within their client services because they want to stay competitive in the market and they want to improve their customer satisfaction. How is AI being implemented in these industries? So for different industries, they have different use cases. For the banking and finance, they are using virtual agents so that their clients can communicate to these virtual agents or chatbots to answer their inquiries. Meanwhile, within their internal operations, they are implementing AI to increase their fraud management capabilities. And also, to provide a deeper and sharper analysis of their clients' credit scores. And in the context of the manufacturing sector, they are using AI to increase their predictive repair and virtually inspect their machinery since uh, the machines of these manufacturing companies are very big and are very complex. And I think one of at least a common use case among our enterprises is the applicant tracking system. Traditionally, HR professionals would match the skills and competencies of the job seekers against the job requirements of their posted vacancies. But because of applicant tracking systems of online job sites, they are now eliminating these manual tasks and they now have more time to at least assess the candidate's competencies and skills. Despite having no AI regulation at the national level, companies who have adopted AI in their business operations are exercising self-regulation in spirit of responsible business conduct and corporate governance to protect their core business interests and also uphold their trust with their clientele. So this denotes the impact of digitization and business transformation in the 21st century. Some companies have opted to issue a separate guideline for the use of AI in their workplace that incorporates values such as transparency, ethical, and responsible use. And then some companies are using their existing IT guidelines because this also coincides with their data privacy regulations and compliance and their cybersecurity infrastructure. Certain companies who hold confidential and sensitive information incorporate a provision that the use of AI should only be for company related tasks or within the bounds of the agreement with their clients. Especially that in the IT BPM sector, certain accounts are requiring their offshore operations here in the Philippines to use a certain AI agent or an AI system. So that was the perspective of the employers. And also, we will now tackle the affected workers due to AI adoption. So among the surveyed employers, we gathered that only 6% of the surveyed employers experience employee reduction due to AI adoption. The highest number of affected workers was from the IT BPM sector, where 31 to 40 employees were affected because of AI adoption. And just to contextualize, some of these displaced workers are from the information technology and information management department. Before these employees were provided with separation packages, some companies opted to first transfer their employees to a different unit or different department within the company because their existing skills also matches certain demands within the business units of these enterprises. While those who were affected by the AI adoption were referred to other companies. Others were referred to the DOLE Adjustments Measures Program. Others were processed for the SSS unemployment insurance. And certain employees were also provided with separation packages. Majority of our surveyed respondents also told us through a survey form that their workers are organized. Hence, some of these organized employees raised a discussion to the management regarding the adoption of AI within their enterprises. And some of the concerns raised by these employees are skills and training programs, the job security of the workforce, the productivity, and mental health. And I'd like to highlight that the mental health is correlated with the job security because we still, back then, they are still not aware of the real impact of AI and that the prevailing notion that AI adoption would result into job loss. And that's why they have poor mental health when they learn that AI will be adopted and raise concerns regarding their security of tenure. Some organized employees also raised regarding remuneration concerns if they would have an increase or a decrease. Next, in the manufacturing sector, it was very specific that they raised their physical safety of using AI in the production line because they are still not clearly adept to how AI will be used as a complement or as a tool to implement predictive repairs and virtual inspections. And while others are other establishments have no formal or organized employees, these employees have also raised direct concerns to their supervisors regarding the adoption of AI, or at least in town hall assemblies where there is a periodic or quarterly dialogue between the management and the employees. On this slide, I will present the concerns of the employees among the surveyed employees, because we want to triangulate the claims of the employers and as well as the experience of the employees who are already using AI in their work. So, based from our survey among the employees, they are primarily concerned on the workload because of AI adoption. So, this is contrary to what is being said that AI eliminates repetitive tasks. To contextualize again, because of AI adoption, they feel that their workload has increased because they have to check what the AI has provided them. So for them, it increases their time and their taskings to double check how if the AI has provided correct and accurate inputs. Meanwhile, it is still a concern among our employees regarding their job security. So it is still in the back of their head that in the future I might still be displaced because of AI adoption. And others are also concerned of use of AI in the decision making, because when HR managers are using AI to have a decision on the security of tenure of the employee, it takes away the qualitative assessment on the employees. And so that they are concerned of how AI is being used, especially in critical decision making that involves employees' security of tenure. And at their individual level, these employees who are working with AI has also raised concerns regarding the privacy and security of the data that they are working on. Most especially that two of the sectors that we have surveyed are handling sensitive and personal informations of local and overseas clients. Meanwhile, it is also an interesting finding of this study that there are certain employees that has raised concerns on job satisfaction. And while AI has been found to affect the security of tenure of employees, it also generated demand for AI skills such as AI and machine learning specialists, AI engineers, data analysts, AI ethicists, and prompt engineers. So let me highlight the demand for AI ethicists because it reflects the discussion that AI should be responsibly and ethically used, and certain companies are already devising strategies on how to formulate and design their AI systems that coincides with this very important value of ethical and responsible use. Especially certain AI systems can be used for illicit activities or in non-company related tasks that involve the personal and confidential information of clients. We also tried to look on the impact of AI on the wages across these sectors. And majority of our respondents said that AI adoption did not increase their wages. But notably, 12% told us that AI adoption indeed increased their wages, to which the banking and finance has the highest self-reported increase in wages, ranging from 45,000 to at least 55,000. And the lowest increase that was reported was in the IT BPM sector, which was just below 15,000. And notably, there are no reported increases from our manufacturing employees, which highlights that the impact of AI is unequal among employees and in different sectors. So let me just also provide a current snapshot of what is the pay scales of AI occupations here in the Philippines. So from a job site, we can see that a data analyst can make at least 32,147 per month as of April 2026, while data engineers can earn at least 66,000 per month. On the other hand, AI and ML machine learning engineers could earn to at least 66,952 per month this April 2026, while AI training specialists could also earn 47,478 per month. So this highlights the demand for AI occupations as well as the availability of skills here in the labor market. So this could also be a jump off of our educational institutions on how they can design their training and curriculum pattern towards the demands of the current industry. Now, because of learning AI skills, majority of our respondents confirm that because AI has provided them with technical skills that enable them to use AI or make and build AI from the scratch, they have now aspirations for career mobility. And we can see that there is a high demand for data science and analytics. And when equipped, they will be certain that they will move from a different company that offers better compensation packages. Regarding task performance, AI has increased at least the pace of the task or when they are performing them. Meanwhile, 25% of our surveyed employees told us that because AI has took the repetitive and manual tasks, they can now more focus on cognitive taskings. While there is also a self-reported 9% that AI did not increase the pace of performing tasks. And a small percentage, only 7%, reported that AI increased the chances of their workload. And notably, this um, rise is within the IT BPM sector. In terms of job satisfaction and job performance, across our surveyed employees, around 49% agreed that AI improved their job satisfaction, and 46% told us that AI has improved their job performance. So, in terms of visibility across different industries, majority of our respondents are from the IT BPM, hence they are satisfied with their current jobs because AI was introduced, while they are also looking into an increase in their job performance because AI has helped them to do some of the manual and repetitive tasks and help them improve as employees. Now, regarding the employee sentiments of using work, at least 71% of our surveyed respondents was glad that AI was introduced in their workplace, which is generally across all of the sectors that we surveyed. Meanwhile, 69% do not feel that they are concerned that AI will replace them because they finally know how AI can be used as a tool within their job occupations and how it can be used to complement the work that they are doing. Meanwhile, it is still notable that there are employees who are still concerned that AI will replace them in the future, especially that they know they need to upskill and increase their portfolios to stay competitive and employable in the labor market. Now that or more enterprises within their industry are adopting AI. So while AI adoption has increased in different sectors, it also raises initial concerns on its adverse impacts on the education and employment landscape. So there is still concerns on displacement in the workplace, and over reliance on AI could lead to a decline in soft skills, especially on problem solving, critical thinking, and person to person communication. AI could also be used for illicit activities as it could generate images, audio, and videos that could cause spread of misinformation, misrepresentation, and illegal activities. Because at present, there is no law that criminalizes the use of AI. Only there are discussions at the legislative on how they could criminalize the use of deep fake videos or audios. Next, over-reliance could still also lead to poor decision making and loss of human intervention in AI-generated outputs. And it is also important to highlight that data quality and the reinforcement of biases could also be used in designing AI models because it could further exacerbate discrimination and inequality. Meanwhile, since the nature of AI is digital technologies, data owners may not be aware that their personal and sensitive information is being used to build and train AI models. And this poses a danger, especially that um, you did not provide your consent on your data being used as a model for building AI technologies or systems. So overall, our study recommends first government coordination. So there should be a convergence with national government agencies, especially for employment facilitation on job opportunities related to AI. In terms of skilling programs, there is a need to fast track the development of training regulations and on data science and analytics and competency standards for other AI related fields and resource sharing between public and private institutions on the education and training curriculum. But currently, TESDA has already promulgated training regulation and competency standards for data science and analytics. In terms of partnership, there should be a tripartite helix where industry, government, and academe should converge to promote the dissemination of skilling programs on AI and other AI related skills. And at the national level, there should be support on the creation of a national level oversight entity on AI to enable an interagency comprehensive plan to address labor and employment concerns, especially that AI cuts across different policy areas of labor and employment, economics, competitive policy, and as well as infrastructure and information technology. We should also pursue benchmarking activities with local industries that already adopted AI so that we can see how is it being implemented and what best practices could be adopted from other industries. Meanwhile, our foreign counterparts or other countries can also be used as benchmark practices to see at least how they develop their human resources to prepare the future entrants in the labor force for an AI-powered labor market. In terms of soft skills, we recommend to reinforce the implementation of 21st century skills to ensure that the labor supply is aligned and that we could also see an increase of these future entrants in the labor market that they are still competitive and employable not only here in the local labor market but as well as the international so that they could be adaptable to the technological innovations at the global stage, most especially that technology moves at a fast pace. Next, we also recommend for industry-specific job fairs to provide employment opportunities to those job seekers that have trained with AI and other AI-related skills. And lastly, we recommend to increase the stream of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics graduates in labor supply institutions in anticipation of the future labor demand for AI and AI-related occupations. So this would help our enterprises innovate and stay competitive in a global race for AI adoption. So let me end my presentation with a remark that AI must be designed to respect the fundamental human rights and should complement human work and not replace individual workers within enterprises. If you want to see the full results of the study that covers the immediate and perceived impact of artificial intelligence in the labor market, please scan the QR code as shown. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to the question and answer portion.
Thank you very much, Chelsea, for your presentation. So, as discussed po ng ating mga speakers, no, malinaw na ang AI ay nagde-deliver na ng tangible benefits sa ating workplace, lalo na in improving efficiency and job performance. Pero at the same time, no, may mga valid concerns din from workers, especially pagdating sa job security, skills requirements, and ethical use of AI. Now that we've heard the presentations and insights from our speakers, we'll now move to our open forum. So for our Zoom participants, you may send in your questions through the Q&A box. For our Facebook Live viewers naman po, no, pwede po kayong mag-post ng inyong questions sa comment section. So at this point, may we request our panelists to kindly turn on their cameras as we proceed with the Q&A session. So Professor Alexis, Dr. Francis, and Chelsea. Okay, so we're very encouraged by the level of engagement in today's discussion. We've received more than 30 questions from Zoom, along with several comments from Facebook. And as of the moment, we have about 1,015 participants on Zoom and more than 468 viewers on our Facebook Live. So given our limited time, we may not be able to address all questions during the session. However, for those who are unable to take up live, we will request our presenters to respond via email. So now let's proceed with the questions. No, let me read the first question. This is from Professor Nancy Elaria of University of Santo Tomas. Um, this is directed to Professor Alexis. So you mentioned that artificial intelligence or AI may lead to a shrinking middle class. Could you briefly explain how this might happen and what policies or action can help prevent or minimize this? Professor Alexis?
Yes, thank you, Marvin, and thank you to Professor Nancy for posing this question. In fact, I wrote a few down, so for the sake of time, if you want me, I can give quick comments, but let me talk about that one. So we do have inequality rising, and we see that if you look at the income distribution, the middle class starts to disappear. AI will only accelerate that. So what is happening? It's a very naive example, but think of the aristocracy in the old times, they controlled the land and everybody worked for those landowners. Now we have the people that control the AI machines that create power that everybody needs to use. Cloud now needs to use. So it's those that control those machines. And of course, control means those that are already invested in them, like sovereign wealth funds and big funds. All the revenue will be going into those AI machines. The machines will be doing the work that human beings used to do, and the rest of us will just exist. It's a very extreme, but I think that captures why I think the middle class will start to disappear. That said, I will comment about another question. Somebody asked about nurses. That's very interesting because as we end up living a longer life, which is great, there is more need for support for nurses. And that cannot be replaced by AI. So while there are some doors closing, there are some others that are going to open. And I think an area where the Philippines will benefit a lot will be by exporting nurses. It's unfortunate because you have to export, they have to leave their families to earn a living, but that's an area where like you can you can still have a middle class. Somebody talked about large language models. Maybe I can discuss this later on, but they need to upgrade the infrastructure on water, on energy. So we talk about infrastructure now, we need workers. So there will be some opportunities. It's not like everything will be wiped out, but there will be much fewer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Alexis, for your response. And thank you also to Professor Nancy for your question. So, for our next question, this is from Miss Jennifer Garcia of the University of Makati. The question is, how will AI impact academic institutions? What abilities will be required of professors and educators? From Miss Maria Lourdes Mendoza from the House of Representatives on Facebook has related question on this, stating that the prevalent use of AI will exacerbate the marginalization of the poor. What interventions in our academic system are necessary to help the poor students cope with this trend? So, to summarize the question is, how is AI expected to reshape academic institutions and the role of our educators, and what should schools do to ensure that poor students are not further marginalized? So this can be answered by any of our presenters. Perhaps we can start again with Professor Alexis, to be followed by Sir Francis and then Chelsea.
Thank you. AI has changed everything in education. And it's not just AI. I see that post-COVID, everything changed. Everything. So our kids learn to be online with COVID and they say this is fine. Now it's normal to take classes online, to interact with the friends online, to find activities, games to do online. Second thing was the discovery of Reels that we didn't have before COVID. So now their attention, and sometimes we find ourselves going from one reel to the other. If we don't get the information in 5 to 10 seconds, we cannot focus. So kids are not reading books. You cannot convince them to open a textbook to spend time to understand something before they do it. And then AI came and changed everything because AI provides the answer. So to answer the first challenge is how do we teach the kids to think and leverage AI to build things? Because if you use AI just to give you the answer to a problem and you just paste it, you will be the first one to be obsolete in the labor market. But if you find a way to think and then you use AI to build, then you will be ahead of the curve. And this is very important. I don't want to take time from my fellow panelists, but this is very important. You can be a very creative person, but you didn't know coding. That was a very big barrier. So you never tried that. You were a great designer, but you never figured out because you didn't know how to use software to design things. Now with AI, we don't need to know coding. We don't need to know how to use AutoCAD and 3D rendering. If we can discover we have skills we didn't know we had before, so that creates opportunities. So the challenge for education is how do we try to create those opportunities and teach those kids how to discover it themselves. And this is changing things. So it's a challenge for academics to find ways to incorporate AI into the classroom, not just to penalize students from using AI to cheat, but to build things. It's a challenge at a different level. We do research, and our quality is based on where we publish. That has changed. So I think that's destroyed. I can write 15 papers in one day. I can submit to journals. I can pass them through so many AI tools. Referees will be overwhelmed by the quality and the quantity, so they will not be able to do the job right. My merit review, which is basically how I get increase in my salary, is based on my publications, but so it messes up everything. So I have no hope for that. I hear people going to study economics PhD, and I tell them, why? I mean, it's just changing everything very fast. But what we need to focus is how do we give these tools to the kids? And I'll give you one example because that goes to another question. What type of skills do we need to teach them? I was teaching an executive course for the Qatar Investment Authority for the new hires. These are people very bright. Qatar Investment Authority is a sovereign wealth fund. Very bright. They studied finance, computer science, economics, history, very different backgrounds. And I asked them to build an algorithmic trading model that uses network analysis to create trading strategies. They were looking at me like I was crazy because this thing didn't make sense to use neural networks. And I explained to them what it is. And I said, just use AI and explain step by step. Now, two girls finished the project and then they were able to build. Why? Because they treated AI as a 5-year-old kid. They were able to communicate, to explain in a very articulate way, hold it by the hand, break the task into steps, build one, and then go to the next one. And then AI understood what they were trying to do, and then they could do so many different things. Some other people that studied finance and they had masters, they told AI, go and do this for me. But they lacked the communication skills and they failed. So soft skills are actually becoming even more important now that the technical barrier has broken. So to answer the challenge for education is twofold. We need to show them what is AI and how they can use that. And it's hard for us because we are not ahead of the curve, we are so behind, but also to emphasize the importance of soft skills at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Alexis. Perhaps Dr. Francis has an additional insight.
Thank you, Marvin. No, so I agree with what Professor Alexis has said. No, so soft skills are actually very important. Teaching grit to students and enhancing their creativity and uh, uh, yeah, their creativity and critical thinking. But I think it's also important to understand, to see from the point of view of the schools, no, so of the administrators, because schools are, as Professor Alexis has mentioned, no, so COVID has really thrown a wrench to how schools are actually being viewed. But um, at least from my experience when I was in school, schools has actually taught us social skills. No, so these are skills that you don't really learn by through the digital. And that's actually gone down through the digital age. But so the schools are actually a brewing pot of enhancing your emotional intelligence and enhancing the soft skills. And so I think this is where schools can actually pivot, no, so looking at a way for schools to be able to enhance the emotional intelligence, discipline, grit of students beyond the academics, no, because of course AI will be there, and what we learn in lessons will be there. But I think this is something that schools can do. Second is also, schools are actually a way for marginalized students to actually have access to um, infrastructure, so different infrastructure. I remember when I was in school, we didn't have a lot of resources, but the library has a lot of resources, no, so there are a lot of books. Internet is fairly available, no, of course you have to line up for all those big computers that are available only for 1 hour, but it gives you a chance to write your paper. And so, but again, so the schools are actually the means for the students who don't have access to AI, to the tools, to be able to gain access. And again, this is the role of the school. So perhaps the administrators can start thinking about their role in providing or enhancing or reducing the income distribution of through their support services to these marginalized students.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Francis, no, for your insight. Clearly, AI is not only transforming industries, but also our academic institutions, no, affecting the skills needed from both the academe and the students. So this really shows the urgent need to strengthen our capacity building efforts moving forward. So siguro we can hear additional insights from Chelsea on this.
Thank you, Marvin. So for me, at the institutional level, education administrators can promulgate AI ethical guidelines on how AI should be implemented within their institutions, which must be anchored on a human rights-based approach and core principles such as ethical and responsible use and transparency, so that this guiding framework will enable educators to conduct and develop their competency assessments and as well as their curriculum pattern towards the use of AI in the classroom. And then at the educator level, let me highlight the critical role of these teachers because they have the responsibility to guide their students on how AI should be used as a complement in learning. So this should not be used as a teacher where they could they could ask the AI and the AI would generate certain information because they are still at the learning stage and they must have a good grasp of foundation. They might be prone to hallucination or biases provided by that generative AI. So just to provide a concrete example, supposedly that I am still in my elementary or high school level. And then I asked the AI, what is 1 plus 1? And then the AI provided me with an answer of 3. So for me, I might believe that 3 is 1 plus 1. But when you're an educator, when you already have the foundation, you know that that is not wrong. But these students are not yet trained or they do not have a good grasp of the basics and foundational concepts. Hence, they would be prone to this kind of misinformation, or they are not trained to detect these biases provided by the generative AI. Instructors can at least use artificial intelligence or introduce what AI tools that would be used by students so that these instructor can lead these students on how AI could be ethically and responsibly used. And I'd also like to highlight the role of the education administrators that AI should also be increased through providing trainings or capacity building programs on AI literacy among their academic and non-academic staff because it's a really an institutional approach on AI adoption. It should not be at the individual level or at least at the classroom level. The institution has a big role to play if they really want to usher their students also to the future of learning where AI will be used as a complement. And this would significantly affect their entry in the labor market if they are not guided on how AI should be used ethically and responsibly. So let me just provide a use case. In research, so it is very common that certain students may just use or copy paste the outputs generated by AI, even copy pasting that AI said, ChatGPT said, like that. And that is very easy to detect by the instructors or the professors. And they are not really restricting the use of AI. And as a guardrail, certain institutions, academic institutions, are implementing that once a student is in their thesis stage, they should provide a declaration of AI use, which we also used in our AI study. We had this initiative that since we also used AI in the study, we declared what AI tool we used, how we use that AI, and what human intervention that we provided because it promotes transparency and responsible use. And ultimately, it means that we as humans and individuals still exercise our human judgment on the outputs generated by AI. So I think this also ends my answer. And I hope our academe and other attendees from educational institutions would at least consider the answers that I provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. And speaking of academic institutions, no, we in the government also help promote evidence-based policy making, particularly as we navigate the impacts of artificial intelligence. That's why open library access platforms such as SERP-P and Institute for Labor Studies are very important because it connects the academe, the scholars, research institutions, making credible research more accessible and useful for policy and decision making. After all, no, it's really about making sure our policies are informed, relevant, and responsive to today's challenges. So let's move on to our next question. Um, this is from Facebook, no, from Miss Mendoza, and this is specifically directed to Sir Francis. The question is, there is an inverse correlation between LGU's income and AI readiness. Does this mean we should tap national budget to strengthen lower income LGU's capacity to be AI ready? And another related question from Alexander Makinano of CPD Caraga region. If AI readiness is the new infrastructure, does your data suggest that investments may be premature for LGUs that still face income and connectivity gaps?
That means they were really paying attention to my presentation. So those are really very good questions. No, so but first, let me just clarify. There's actually the relationship is not inverse, no. So it's actually, if you will look at it, if you're the richer you are, the more you are ready. But I think the confusion might come because of the ranking. Because if you're a first class an LGU, that means you are richer, and then that means you are more ready. But the first is actually a lower number, so baka that's where the confusion is. It becomes a negative or an inverse relationship, or the ranking is actually inverse. But what this really means is if you are richer, you're actually have more AI. You're more AI ready. No? So that's actually what that means. No, so what we are also suggesting is that for the fourth, fifth, and sixth class municipalities, remember one of the recommendations that we provided is to actually have this fund that can actually help support the adoption needs of the fourth, fifth, and sixth class municipalities. And then for the first and second class municipalities, or first and second class LGUs, the range is actually dependent on how they are actually performing, if they actually do still need it. So in a way, yes, there is actually a need to really support um, especially those in the GIDA areas. No? So those who are really lacking the infrastructure to utilize these technologies. Um, okay. Yeah. So yes, there is a need for national budget to become more redistributive. So if there's already very strong performance in the richer areas, especially in NCR, there is really a need to redistribute and to focus attention for areas so that they would be able to catch up. So if AI readiness is the new infrastructure, does your data suggest that investments may be premature? For actually, what we actually saw is that there's a need to do this to implement strategies at a multi-pronged level, no, so you don't really prioritize one and then just wait until you completely finish this before you move on to the next. It's actually implementing strategies simultaneously, because um, technology changes so fast, no, so while we are looking at implementing digital commerce, digital services in the LGU, we should also already be thinking about utilizing the information gathered from here in order to come up with better services and better how these can actually feed in as data for AI, for ease of providing better services to the constituents. So, for example, it allows us to identify areas where there's a concentration of people who are vulnerable to disaster, or it allows us to identify areas of the need for um, the phased provision of social services, because we would be able to identify whether which months of the year do people really need more income. No? So but these are just these would just remain as information if they don't are not really processed well and made available for large language models or for AI applications to make insights and come up with insights from these data. So that's why it's while we're focusing on infrastructure, it's also important to look at the skills of the people in the LGUs. Are they able to make to utilize this information as well to come up with these kinds of insights? And again, corollary to that, no, so you have all these prongs. You should also be the LGU should also be able to come up with an enabling framework that allows the LGU to extract information without violating also the privacy in of these uh, of their constituents, no? So of the data that they are extracting. So again, the information should be, or the implementation should be on a multi-pronged level, so, implementing them simultaneously. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Francis, for your insight. No, it's very clear that AI readiness across LGUs is still uneven, especially in the far-flung areas. So this also highlights the ongoing challenge of the digital divide. Moving forward, no, there's really a need to strengthen support, particularly in terms of infrastructure, skills, and more equitable resource distribution so that LGUs can keep pace with the digital transformation. So we move on to the next question. This is from Rico Mercado of Right Lens AI. This question is directed to Chelsea. The question is, based on your findings, do you see governance as something that should precede broader AI adoption or as something that typically follows once capability improves?
For AI governance, I believe it should be at least flexible because AI technology moves at a faster pace. So regulation should also be as flexible, or we can also try to see how other countries are using AI on how to improve their services at the regional level. If I'm not mistaken, Vietnam is the first ASEAN country to enact an AI law, while other institutions or here in the government, we are also looking on how the EU is has enacted the AI law because they at least provide a risk-based approach on regulating AI. So just to say that our AI governance is still at the formulation stages. We are looking into how other countries are implementing their regulating AI. But suffice to say that our governance system should not put guardrails on AI because it could also impact our economic development. Our enterprises should have at least the flexibility. Our governance system should have at least the flexibility on how AI governance should be implemented here. That incorporates a human based approach and also a risk based approach in managing different levels of AI systems.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. So indeed, no, there's also so much we can learn from other experiences from other countries as we refine our own AI approach to AI governance here in the Philippines. So for our next question, this is for Professor Alexis again. This is from Alessandro Cesana from Zoom. The question is, what do you think is the timeline for some of the societal changes you mentioned in your presentation?
Thank you. I mean, we cannot really pin down the time, but we can say with certainty that before changes would take thousands of years, then they would take centuries, then they would take decades. I think the changes we see now will take place in the next 2, 3 years. Because once everybody switches to using LLM models to get tasks done, they will do it in the next weeks or months, actually. So we'll see. I think the changes will be in the next year or two. Those that manage to learn how to leverage AI to do stuff, to create stuff, will benefit. The rest will suffer. Now, it doesn't mean for everybody it will be in 2, 3 years. It depends where you live, what type of job you do, how you engage with AI. But I don't expect decades. I expect this to take, a few years.
Thank you so much, Professor Alexis. So we have another question from Zoom, and this is directed to all our presenters. Let's start with Dr. Francis, then Prof. Alexis, and then Chelsea. So the question is, how can private sector employees better prepare for the future of work, especially in global industries? And what government programs or trainings are available to support AI readiness? Let's start with Dr. Francis.
Okay, so I think I think privately, no, as individuals, we are already exposed to the potential of the use of AI. No, so even if the institution we are in or does not have a formal use AI use policy, we are actually using AI to do some of the tasks that often has eaten a lot of our time. No, so processing emails or creating responses to emails, checking grammar, editing some of these things, and even basic searches are also allowing us to do. So the search cost has really reduced the time that's being spent on that. No, so search cost has also gone down. So as employees, no, so what we are seeing is that some of us who are also already being made more aware of of the potential and the use of AI in our main daily tasks are actually improving. So then the question is, how what else can we do, no? So try to come up with, so with the time that you save, with the cost and efficiency that you gain, so what else can you do with your time? So are you being more productive with the time that you get, and are you also exploring other avenues where your skills can also be used? So that's actually uh what the employees can actually look into, look beyond, no? So um and then also look at what more can you do, no? So it's actually looking beyond what your position in the team is actually providing you. So what are the opportunities in the um company is providing you, because the the technology is there, and as individuals, you're also trying to familiarize yourself with the use of technology. But then um what else can the tool do for you and for your company? And that's the thing that where you need to look at, and then try to also critically look at yourself, no? So if you have seen that you have gained time, you have gained efficiency, becoming more productive, try to see what else can you create, and look at the government and skills training that's being provided, so that you would be able to utilize these tools for the creation of other things, no? So I think that's what you can do as an employee, and in these businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Francis, for your insights. Perhaps maybe we can get the thoughts of Professor Alexis on this from a global perspective.
Okay, sure. So I think the first part is looking at the work that Francis and Chelsea are doing at their institutions, collecting data, having surveys, gives a lot of information on where the opportunities may be, the challenges, what tasks are affected, and so on. So you can see in your own domain what other people think. But individually, I think, regardless of where you work and what tasks you do, you shouldn't rely on the government to hold you by the hand and bring you to the right training. There's a resource constraint. The government is always behind the curve, and it's not their problem. This thing is moving very, very fast. So you have to, but you can do it on your own. For example, you can take many short courses online. We all have free time. We spend time watching reels. You can take free courses online. All you need is internet connection. You can get free access to some of the LLM models, and you can ask, how do I even start learning about it? And they will tell you. You can say, I work in this job, I have to put these documents together, and I'm trying to think whether AI is affecting me. Start a conversation, and you will see how fast you will advance that conversation. You have somebody to talk to. Just try that. Just get your hands wet. Just try it, and you will see that you learn. Not only will you find ways to improve the delivery of the tasks you have, it's like, trying to add numbers and you don't know how to use a calculator. Once somebody showed you, it became very important. Then somebody showed you how to use Excel. And you said, wow, how could I even do my work without knowing Excel? And then somebody showed you Tableau, Power BI, or now AI. So discover these things because it improves how you do tasks and increases your mobility, your ability to move from one job to the other. So that's a matter of job security and safety. But the other thing is by learning these tools, you may discover talents you didn't know you have. Like you may discover that, I like to build things in specific domains, and I just never thought about it because I never had the chance. So have fun with it, explore. But don't sit back and wait for the government because it will be too late. And it's not the government's fault. It's not that the government doesn't, it's the nature of this beast. It's moving very, very fast.
Thank you so much, Professor Alexis. Maybe we can also hear from Chelsea, coming from the government side, especially on the capacity building programs and the initiatives in place to support AI readiness.
Thank you, Marvin. I think first, regardless whether you are a private sector employee or coming from the public sector, I believe that all employees should embrace an attitude for lifelong learning. Because our current discussion is framed on artificial intelligence or generative AI. It could look different in 10 years' time. It could be another emerging trend by 2040 or by 2050. So to really future-proof an employee, you should adopt this type of attitude so that you will be keeping up with these trends in the labor market, these shocks in the labor market. And if you are able to at least cultivate this attitude towards lifelong learning, you will be self-sufficient and you will teach yourself on how to use or be updated with these type of trends. So right now, we are in the world of work where it is now defined by artificial intelligence. So for me, since I'm still developing at least this attitude of lifelong learning on my own level, I try to at least see on how AI is being used for my daily tasks. I try to look for how AI is being used in research, really try to devote time on what AI websites that is specific for research that I can use for conducting my research. And if you are still not aware of how AI is being used, you should also know that you don't have to switch industries. And I think that's what Sir Alexis is also emphasizing. You can capitalize on your industry knowledge and you can look for specific AI training so that you can be a data analyst, a data engineer, or at least a machine learning specialist, or at least an AI trainer because it is already your expertise. If I am from the banking and finance and then I try to upskill with AI related skills, I am now an AI skill and I am now an AI expert on the banking and finance industry. You don't have to at least switch industries because of artificial intelligence. Build upon your existing skills and knowledge, and that will be your niche market in the industry. And for the government programs, the ICT is providing free training programs in their regional offices or in their head offices. You just have to look for their Facebook pages on or the regional office's Facebook page. TESDA is also providing training, regulations, or competency standards for data analytics and other AI related skills such as image labeling. And then you can also look for other trainings on other government institutions such as the Development Academy of the Philippines because back then they are implementing the Sparta training program. And if these government courses would not be aligned to your skill or to your time or like your resources, certain websites are also providing free training. So these learning management platforms are easily searchable in the internet and they provide free courses on data analytics and science just to jumpstart your AI journey. That's all, Marvin.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. So this really reminds us that we must keep developing our skills, taking every opportunity to learn, adapt, and evolve, especially the government trainings provided by our government institutions. So We received an overwhelming number of questions from Zoom and Facebook, but due to our limited time, please allow me to read the final question. So this is directed to all our presenters. Let's start with Professor Alexis, to be followed by Dr. Francis and then Chelsea. So this is again from Ms. Mendoza from the House of Representatives. The question is, what higher level competencies should Filipinos develop in order to ensure their marketability in the labor market in the age of AI? Let's start with Dr. Francis. I'll start with Prof. Alexis, and then Dr. Francis, and then Chelsea.
Okay, thank you. So I want to make a comment. It's relevant to this question and the one before, and I think it's the most important comment I'll make in this presentation. So when I talk to these VCs that invest in California and they look at 1,000 pitches every year where to invest their money, and one thing they tell me is they like founders that are not tech people. They like find founders that are 40, 50 years old. They work in some sector in the economy and they identify the real problem. And then, you can figure out the tools. AI will actually tell you what tools you need to solve a problem. The problem is the people that know AI and they know technology, they never worked in real life and they don't know real problems to solve. And what you will see more and more these days is people from the industry, people solving very difficult problems in various sectors. They realize the inefficiency. They realize that what they do is very inefficient and technology can improve it. Maybe they didn't know how to solve it. They don't need to know how to solve it because AI will tell them, but they understand the business. Somebody from the outside doesn't understand the business, they don't understand the problems. But now that has changed. That creates a lot of opportunities. So the first competence is, try to understand your domain very well. That's your strongest skill. The second one, everything is about data. Data visualization for me is very important. Every transaction we make, every interaction generates data. We need to understand data. And finally, play with AI because I may decide that I want to renovate the room behind me and I don't know modeling. I don't know how to go on the computer and do renderings and see which one is better or not. But if Marvin tells me, there is this tool, you go in, you put some photos of the space, some photos that you like, you explain why you like it, and give some directions what you like, what you don't like, it will create space for you. And if I'm able to communicate that in 5 seconds, I'm able to redesign my space. I have an idea. So then it's really about how you communicate, how you articulate. But somebody has to tell you that that tool exists. So a very important competence is just to know what's out there, even with data visualization. Not that you have to do coding, but to know what to ask AI. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Alexis. Maybe we can hear the insights of Dr. Francis.
Thank you. That's actually a very good question, and uh, it brings me back to a classmate of mine when I was in my taking my masters in Ateneo. When um, uh, he he actually when I asked, I posed him a question. So a short story. I posed him a math question, and then he said that, that's a hard question, and can only give you my answer in two things. No? So it's either I know the answer or I know where to get the answer. So there's the only two things that he knows. He said, I know where it's either I know the answer or I know where to get the answer. And I think it's something that's very important for all of us here who are now facing this challenge or this major question of how will AI affect all of us? No, so it's very difficult for us to already know the answer, but perhaps we can utilize this tool that's already in front of us to use it to get some answers. No, to we don't know what the answer might be, but I think it can be used to get an answer. So, well, and I think that's a good starting point for all of us here who are asking. So, what competencies do I need to know? In especially for where I am, I think one thing is also first is asking the right questions. No, so if you are in the development space for like all of us, it's important to ask. to have that curiosity of asking why such things are, or why are people behaving in a certain fashion. So and um that's also a good starting point for AI, no? Because in AI, you feed them with questions, no? So you and the questions will only come from you, no? From your own curiosity, from your own experiences in the environment and in the circle where you are. So formulating that kind of question is something that's very important. That competency will help you identify and extract the answers that you are looking for. I think it's also something very important also is um, empathy, the being part of knowing that you are also not just by yourself, and being part of a bigger environment that where you are, no? So that builds on curiosity and trying to feel what the others are feeling. So again, asking the right questions, why certain things are, and why um these people are experiencing that kind of experience, even if you are not experiencing it. No? So why are people becoming more burdened by disaster, or why are middle class being asked to pay more for certain things? No? So why are taxes being imposed on all of us? And why are certain beneficiaries being on the receiving end of certain beneficiaries? So understanding and asking those kinds of questions, and being critical about the answer that AI will give you. So the next competency would be, again, critical thinking. So not just receiving the answers that AI would on face value, but really trying to identify um, what the how this can be improved, and whether these are actually based on sound and data. And then finally, I think this is a competency that we don't really see often, but risk taking, being more uh, risk averse to technology, something that we would want. It's something that we need to really expose ourselves, no? So when people say that, oh, that's AI, I'm afraid of that, we really should try to discourage them, but rather equip them with the capacity to understand what it can do, what it can't do, and what type of information you should feed into that technology, no? So um, and use that technology, take the risk to use that technology for your improvement, for your other skills. So those are some of the competencies I think that would be important.
Thank you so much, Dr. Francis. So indeed, no, it really comes down to asking the right questions, critical thinking, having empathy, especially in evidence-based policy making. No? So we can stay curious, adapt to change, and ensure that this transition remains human-centered. So maybe we can hear also from Chelsea from the government perspective.
Um, Thank you, Marvin. I believe we should focus more on the soft skills of the um, job seekers, because nothing could really replace the soft skills. It is very different from a lot of people, and we should also remember that training institutions and educational institutions are also collaborating with the industry to prepare the students for their technical skills. So basically, everyone, especially if you're belonging to a specific industry, have a leveled playing field because of the skills that you learn and the knowledge that you have learned in these school and training institution. But what makes you different is your soft skills. Employers, I think, also based on a ILS study on Gen Z and the youth, employers are really more looking onto the soft skills of the job seekers, because people are trainable. And if you're trainable with the skills, your the other factor that they will look into is your soft skills. Are you do you have collaborative engagement with your teammate? Do you know how to communicate with your stakeholders? Can you solve problems on your own? Can you provide critical thinking? And also, can you exercise leadership and management to your lower staff? So I believe soft skills should really be developed continually, and we should have an attitude towards learning because the market is always changing. As I said earlier, the technology that we know now could be different by next year, even next year, in the next 10 years, or by 2050. So as the market changes, as the industry changes, our way of future proofing ourselves from these macro shocks is to develop our own soft skills and adopt an attitude for lifelong learning, so that when we experience these macroeconomic shocks or shocks in the labor market, we know how to handle ourselves. We know how to train ourselves on the current trend. We know where to go to look for scaling programs, and that we are also well adaptable to these changes in the workplace. So that's my answer, Marvin. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. So, as reiterated by Chelsea, for job seekers, yes, technical skills can be learned, but it's really the soft skills, how you think, how you communicate, and how you adapt, that will make you competitive in the labor market. So, thank you very much for your active participation to our participants in our open forum. So we will now conclude our discussion and move on to the closing messages. So let us call on our panelists one by one to share their very brief final reflections on today's discussion. So we will begin with Chelsea, to be followed by Dr. Francis, and then lastly, Professor Alexis. So Dr. Francis is also joined by his co-author, Sir Christopher, on Zoom, and we would also like to ask for his reflection after Dr. Francis. So let's begin with the message of Chelsea.
Thank you, Marvin. First, I'd like to thank our attendees because while I was also waiting for my turn, we are already raising questions that also deserve clarity from the presenters. And I think at my own level, it also caused a reflection on my part that we should also learn how to set our expectations on how AI is being used in different industries. So I got that some of our attendees are from the government sector, some are from the education, asking questions on how AI should be used. And for me, this reflects that our attendees are really curious on how AI should be ethically and responsible. How AI should be ethically and responsibly used within in their institutions, and they are just looking for frameworks. They are looking on how it can be implemented. And I think that is a good sign because we are not afraid of AI, but we are willing to engage, we are willing to embrace AI, but we just don't know where to look and how to look for it. So I guess I hope that in the future policy discussions, our conversations will be also on an exchange basis. We have inputs from the industry. We have exchanges with the academe and also with the government so that our journey towards AI adoption could be of a full of a nation approach that links labor supply institutions to our labor demand institutions. That's all.
Thank you, Chelsea, for your message. Now let's hear from Dr. Francis and also Sir Christopher, who's also joining us via Zoom.
Thank you very much. Again, also thank you to the organizers. Thank you to the PIDS for the invitation to present our paper. So the paper is actually looking at the one of the smaller units of our government. No? So those that are really closest to us, no? The local government units. And we realize that we need to look at their readiness because it's either just allow the technology to pass through us and be reactive to how it is being used, or we can actually take advantage of the opportunities that is being provided to us by through the use of these technologies. So we realize through the study that our LGUs are not may not be, all, not all of them are ready. Some of them have really major barriers, but what we understand is that there's a way to build this readiness to address the challenges. It can be through investment, through the training of the LGU workers, through good planning, through deliberate, well-defined policy. So these things can actually be addressed and actually be done by the LGUs themselves. So what is important is we ensure that we embrace the use of AI so that no LGU or no local government, no one is left behind. So the 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 success of the Philippines is actually Philippine government, Philippine public service can actually be supported and enhanced through the use of technology such as AI that is actually human centered and um, through an ethical and people centered use of AI.
Thank you, Dr. Francis. Let's hear po from your co-author, Sir Christopher.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much, Marvin, and thank you for the organizers for inviting me as well in this event. So I'll just keep it short. So basically, today's presentations, aside from our presentation, it they paint a consistent picture that artificial intelligence holds enormous promise across the world, including here in the Philippines for public services, for workers, but that promise is not will not be realized automatically. So it really requires deliberate investment in infrastructure and skills, and also clear governance frameworks and policies, so that to ensure that no Filipino worker, no community, no LGU is left behind. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Christopher. And finally, let's hear the final message of Professor Alexis.
Thank you. We already shared a lot of insights. I think I'll make three comments. The first one is there is change coming. We cannot avoid it. The change is actually here. The second thing is, while the change is here in ways we cannot understand, we shouldn't be afraid. We need to understand there is change. There has always been change. Maybe the rate at which this change is coming is not what we expected, but we shouldn't be afraid. We should try to figure out how we can benefit from our own side. And we talked a little bit about that. And the third comment is, we all need to come together in forums like this, in research, in drafting policies. It cannot be somebody behind an office writing policies and educational reform programs. We all need to come together. But also as individuals, it's up to us not to be afraid and do nothing about it, just to explore. It's like the first time you saw a car on the street. You didn't know what it was. Maybe you felt overwhelmed, but really, you just had to make sure you don't get stepped over by the car. Eventually, you learn how to drive the car, how to improve your life. You don't need to worry about how to build cars. You don't need to worry how to fix it. If it breaks, somebody else will do it for you. Just how to coexist and use it to your benefit. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Alexis. And of course, we'd like to thank again um, Sir Francis, Chelsea, our resource speakers who joined us today for sharing their insights and for joining us in this webinar. Of course, thank you very much to all our participants for your active engagement and for staying with us until this part of the program. So let's give ourselves a big virtual round of applause, claps, hearts, and confettis for everyone. Okay, so now as we wrapped up, no, sana hindi po dito natatapos yung insights natin. Sa panahon po ngayon na binabago po ng AI ang lahat, jobs, skills, and even governance, nandyan po ang SERP as your trusted source of evidence. So isa po itong free open access library ng policy research from over 75 institutions. So whether you are a policymaker, a researcher, or even a concerned citizen, makakakuha po kayo ng credible and evidence-based studies through SERP. And through this platform po, no, kami po sa Institute for Labor Studies, naibabahagi rin po namin ang aming researches and work and nakapag-contribute po kami sa evidence-based policy making, lalo na on labor and employment issues. So nasa Zoom chat box po and the Facebook comment section ng ating link. So feel free to check it out. And before we officially end the program, i-announce po natin ang ating mga raffle winners as a token of appreciation for your participation. So from Zoom, we have our first winner is Rosan Ray Rubio from the Social Housing Finance Corporation. Congratulations po. Our next winner naman po from Zoom, we have Lan Espacio from the Philippine Business for Social Progress. Congratulations. And from Facebook, we have Jane Macapagal mula sa Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Pasig. So, congratulations po sa lahat po ng ating winners. The PIDS tech team will coordinate with you on how you can claim your prizes. So, please wait for the team's email. Please don't leave just yet, no, as we have a few reminders. The speaker's presentations will be available on the PIDS website through the link provided in the Zoom chat and sa Facebook comment section. So for our Zoom participants, we encourage you to accomplish the feedback form provided in the chat box to help us further improve our program. So you will receive your e-certificate after submitting the completed form. For our Facebook Live viewers, you may still receive an e-certificate through Replay on Demand. So simply scan the QR code or the link provided in the comments and submit your response before 10 p.m. today. So again, the deadline is 10 p.m. today. Please keep in touch with us as well. Follow the PIDS, DOLE-ILS, and SERP on social media and visit our websites for more updates and information. You may also visit www.pids.gov.ph/events for details on the PIDS upcoming activities for May 2026, which is flashed on the screen. So once again, thank you to all our speakers, discussants, and participants. Our key takeaway today is simple yet important. Just because we are not being replaced by AI today does not mean we are already secure. Marami sa atin ang nasa transition stage, nag-a-adjust sa changing jobs, evolving skills requirements, and new technologies, pero hindi pa fully prepared sa mga susunod na mangyayari. At dito pumapasok ang importance ng proactive policies, stronger institutions, at tuloy-tuloy na skills development. Yes, AI brings great opportunities, but without the right support systems, pwede rin po itong palalimin ang existing gaps. Hopefully, today's discussion brings us one step closer sa pagbuo ng mas inclusive and future-ready Philippines. On behalf of PIDS, SERP, and DOLE-ILS, maraming salamat po for joining us today and have a great day. Thank you.